described as life-changing injuries. And as Kate Prout reports, police believe they know who's responsible.
A quiet cul-de-sac in a small Hertfordshire village. An unlikely setting for what police are calling a targeted attack. So unlikely, in fact, neighbours were unaware what happened.
Nobody saw anything, nobody heard anything. All we heard was an entourage of police. That was it. No bangs, nothing.
Within minutes, police and ambulance are at the scene, forensics searching for every little clue. More details are emerging today about yesterday's targeted attack. 3 men wearing balaclavas arrived at this house at 10 to 3, demanded money and then shot the 43-year-old victim twice before making their escape. From what we can gather, the victim was not the intended target, and the masked men had demanded thousands of pounds before shooting. The gang were then seen getting into a silver car in East Street, the main road through the village. It then drove off in the direction of Hexton. There have been a number of targeted attacks of this nature in recent years, including 3 men shot dead in Bishop Stortford and a father of 2 killed in a children's play area in Luton's Lucy Farm estate last year. They were all drug-related.
Hertfordshire is generally a very safe place to live. Gun crime is very unusual in the United Kingdom and specifically around here. These people have been subjected to a violent attack, but I wish to reassure the public this isn't usual.
The victim tonight is improving in a London hospital. Detectives believe they know who is responsible for shattering the peace in this quiet corner of Hertfordshire. Kate Prout, Anglia News, Lilley near Hitchin.
Well, next, more bad news for the region's Republicans. 6 pubs close every day in Britain, and now there's a warning that many more will follow because of huge hikes in business rates.
Landlords of successful pubs say they're being hit the hardest, with some facing increases of more than 100%. Here's Matt Hudson's report.
There's been a pub at Rockland All Saints near Attleborough in Norfolk since the 1700s, but perhaps for not very much longer. The owners are worried they won't be able to stay open after being told their rateable value will soar from £1,500 a year to over £15,000.
Not only is this our business, but that's our home as well. So we feel that they've got us by the short and curlies, for want of a better word. We've got no way out.
According to the British Beer and Pub Association, on average, 39 pubs are closing every week. Pubs have been hit hard by the smoking ban, by the cheap price of alcohol in supermarkets and by the recession. Now many publicans say the hike in business rate in April could be the final nail in the coffin. Pubs are rated on their potential earnings. It means landlords of successful pubs are being the hardest hit. This pub at Tackleston in Norfolk was recently named Pub of the Year in a competition designed to promote and support rural watering holes.
Basically, for 2011, our business rates have increased by 130%. When the rates man come round to see us, he said that it was due to the fact that we had won the South Norfolk Pub of the Year award, and therefore we must be busy. There is no future in a pub business if that's how it's going to be.
CAMRA, the campaign for real ale, is already concerned about the loss of so many pubs.
The pub in some villages is the hub of the community. They've lost their post office, they've lost the local shop, and often what's left is just the pub. And if that goes, that can be very devastating to the village itself.
No one was available to be interviewed from the Valuation Office agency, but in a statement they said the method of valuation is agreed with the industry and is a tried and tested method of valuing pubs. Publicans can appeal, and plenty have said they will. Matthew Hudson, Anglia News.
I'm sure they will. Right, let's take some news in brief now. And an NHS hospital in Cambridgeshire is to become the first in the country to be run entirely by a private company. Hinchingbrooke Hospital near Cambridge is £40 million in debt. It looks certain to be taken over by one of 5 private contractors after the last remaining NHS bidder dropped out of the running. It's thought to be the closest ever move to total privatisation of an NHS hospital. Unions have called it a dangerous experiment.
to reiterate, this is not privatisation. Staff and assets remain in the NHS. We're looking for the best place provider to improve services and to put the finances on a sustainable financial footing going forward.
Police have finally recovered the head of a man whose body was found at a disused quarry in Bedfordshire last year. Michael Gilbert's body was found last May in the Blue Lagoon in Arlesey. A post-mortem has confirmed the head, which was found earlier this month, was his. 7 people have been charged in connection with his death, and a trial is due to start at Luton Crown Court on Monday.
Anglia Ruskin University is facing a fine of more than £650,000 for enrolling too many students last year. The university, which has campuses in Essex and Cambridgeshire, has fallen foul of the government's new cap on admissions. But Anglia Ruskin says it's contesting the fine and anticipates the final sum will be considerably less.
Well, it's 6 minutes past 6. You're watching Anglia Tonight.
Now, at 6:30, we're going to hand you over to London for the ITV national news, but there's plenty. Right, more news now. Norfolk's biggest hospital has apologised for making patients stay in rooms described as store cupboards and promised to review the practice. The problems came to light when GP Helen McKeown complained that 80-year-old mother Doris from Bungay had been forced to stay in a room resembling a broom cupboard at the Norfolk and Norwich University Hospital. Other patients made similar complaints. The hospital's now apologised. It says the treatment rooms will be refurbished and only used in exceptional circumstances from now on.
A former headmaster has appeared before magistrates in Bury St Edmunds accused of sexually assaulting 2 children 30 years ago at schools in Norfolk and Suffolk. Derek Slade, who's 60 and from Burton-on-Trent in Staffordshire, was remanded in custody. It follows investigations into alleged abuse during the late 1970s and early 80s at 2 schools. He'll appear at Ipswich Crown Court next month.
A man accused of stabbing an MTV presenter in the neck is facing a retrial. Edward Smith was on trial at Norwich Crown Court, accused of attacking Matt Pritchard, the man with the Mohican there, after he intervened in a dispute at the Co-op in Toftwood near Dereham. He denied GBH with intent.
People living near a warehouse in Essex will not be allowed back into their homes tonight after a fire broke out nearby.
Emergency crews were called to the Causeway in Heybridge near Malden just before 9:30 this morning after a heating equipment supplier's premises went up in smoke. Lorna Ramsey has more on that.
It wasn't so much the weather that made people in Heybridge keep their windows and doors closed today. It was more the fear of asbestos in smoke billowing from a warehouse. The fire started at around 9:30 this morning at a company called Calorex in the Causeway, which supplies heating equipment. Around 200 people were evacuated because of fears cylinders inside could explode.
If one of these cylinders explode, they will go through a brick wall, so even if you're sitting inside your house and you're within that 200 metres, you're not necessarily safe. So obviously our priority is public safety. So we had that 200-metre cordon. We've subsequently managed to get some cooling water on some of the cylinders, and we've managed to bring that cordon in a little bit, but there are a number of residents that unfortunately will have to stay out of their homes this evening.
These pictures were taken by viewer Colin Raymond. At its height, 45 firefighters tried to tackle the blaze. Many will remain here overnight while they continue to dampen down the area. Cups of tea and shelter were made available at Plantation Hall, just down the road from the fire. Most people have been allowed back, but those living in a dozen houses nearest the fire will have to find somewhere else to sleep tonight. And one of those people is Jessica Burness and her 2-year-old son, Harvey.
We didn't really know what was going on, to be honest. We just grabbed the baby and the dog and ran. Got told to get out straight away, so yeah, it's quite scary.
Malden District Council says it will provide shelter to anyone who needs it. Jessica admits it's not an ideal situation to be in, but at least it doesn't seem to be worrying Harvey too much. Lorna Ramsey, Anglia News, Heybridge.